with the major port strike in the U.S. drawing closer and over half of U.S. imports and exports facing the threat of supply disruptions. We're taking a closer look at the ramifications with Flexport founder and CEO Ryan Petersen. Ryan, it is good to see you. Maybe start at a high level, Ryan. So this possible port strike on the East Coast, Gulf of Mexico. Walk us through the potential consequences here, Ryan. What kind of impact would you perhaps expect to see?
Yeah, hey, great. Thanks for having me on. I think it really just depends on how long it lasts. If it just lasts for a day or two, it's probably not a huge deal. It also happens to be that next week, when this would kick in, if it does go down, is what's called the Golden Week holiday, when all of China's factories are shut down. And so that's probably a happy coincidence that there's not a lot of activity anyways at the origin side of things, of cargo moving out. But if it lasts for more than a few days or more than a week, you're going to get massive cascading effects of backlog building up of cargo that needs to get moved and can't. And you're talking about 15% of the world's container ships being taken offline. That's the percent that call at these ports every year. That's a huge reduction in capacity. You just saw some of those statistics. I think the longer it lasts, the more that cargo buildup, that backlog will build up, and the prices will go crazy, sky high. You'll see just supply chain disruptions of the type that we saw during COVID, but actually probably much worse. That in the COVID instance, those were caused by a huge increase in demand for goods. This is really different. This is a decrease in supply, much worse from an economic impact standpoint.
Ryan, weren't we supposed to fix all this stuff, right, during the pandemic? Wasn't Flexport supposed to help fix all this stuff, right? I just remember having these conversations about how part of the issue was, at least, how antiquated these systems were of tracking goods, of figuring out how to get things where they're really needed. So has there been some progress made since then? Are we more nimble at all in terms of dealing with this kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're trying to blame me, so that's a little unfair here.
No.
No, the reality is, look, the union is a very powerful force. They do a lot of great work. They work really hard. They deserve to get paid, but it's a fundamental dichotomy here between the employers and, in many cases, the brands, the companies that rely on these ports, and the union. The employers want automation. They want to lower costs. They want to reduce the number of workers. For obvious reasons, that's not what the union wants, and so you're at a bit of a standstill. There's the main issues here is, one is how much are they going to get paid? That's always a negotiation, always a challenge. But the automation one is the really sticky one. These ports in many other countries are fully automated. They don't need the workers, and the union sees that. They know it. They know the writing's on the wall. They gotta stand up for their jobs. That is their job as union leaders, and so these contracts tend to run for about 6 years. It's going to be the battle every 6 years for the rest of their lives. There's not like technology is going away. So the technology exists and it's there, but for obvious reasons, this union just will not want to see it happen.
Ryan, let me ask you, some viewers might be watching this and thinking, well, if there was a potential strike, East Coast, Gulf of Mexico, why can't they just divert more to the West Coast? Why isn't it that simple?
A lot of reasons. You saw in those statistics that 56% of the containers come into the East Coast. Well, the West Coast can't handle that much more volume. The ports will just not be able to handle it. There aren't enough ships calling at the West Coast in the first place. The cranes won't be able to unload that many. The yards will get bottlenecked. Won't have enough trucks, enough trailers with chassis, as they're called in the industry, to haul those containers. Just simply don't have the capacity to do it. Similarly, people think, well, we'll just switch to air freight. One container ship would probably be enough to fill up all the world's air cargo planes like the one behind me. You just won't be able to pull it off. So at the end of the day, this will just create a massive backlog of cargo sitting offshore, yes, but also the longer it lasts, the more you see that backlog building up at origins around the world. And then where it really gets bad is when these ships that are supposed to call in the East Coast, after they unload their cargo, they're supposed to continue on their journey back to Asia or back to Europe, wherever they may be going, and pick up more cargo. Well, if they're sitting there waiting in the East Coast, they're not continuing that journey. So you wait another month and they're not where they're supposed to be. And cargo is going to start building up in all these other parts of the world. And that's why you'll see this cascading effect as the bottleneck that's caused by this just ripples through the world's supply chain and causes very unpredictable outcomes.
Ryan, got to leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.